You know, joint replacement surgery is one of those things that feels like a true miracle of modern medicine. It gives people their mobility back, it completely transforms millions of lives. But for all its success, that classic world of metal and plastic implants, it's in the middle of a pretty radical evolution. And it's all being driven by one simple but really powerful question. What if we could build a joint that could actually last a lifetime? Let's dive in and see what that looks like.
So, why the need for such a big change? Well, it really starts with this number right here. Up to 27% of all hip revision surgeries are actually re-revisions. Just think about that. That means a patient's first replacement has already failed, and now the second one has failed too. It traps them in this painful downward spiral of surgeries that just get more and more complex and honestly less successful each time.
And that is the central question that's driving this huge wave of innovation in orthopedics. What if we could break that cycle? What if we could build a joint replacement that was so perfectly designed for the individual that it could really truly last a lifetime? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore.
The first, and honestly, maybe the most important change here isn't a piece of high-tech gear at all. It's a fundamental shift in philosophy. We are literally witnessing the end of the one-size-fits-all era.
This quote from the medical tech company Materialize just nails it. For decades, the whole approach has been to make the patient's body fit a standard off-the-shelf implant. The new philosophy? It flips that completely on its head. You adapt the implant to the patient.
And this slide just illustrates the difference perfectly. The old way, a surgeon grabs a standard size implant and has to literally carve away healthy bone to make it fit. The new way, the patient-specific approach, uses advanced imaging to design a custom-tailored implant that perfectly matches the patient's unique anatomy, which means you preserve as much of their natural bone as possible. It's really the difference between buying a suit off the rack and getting one that's been custom-made just for you.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does this new philosophy go from being a theory to something that happens in the real world? Well, to see that, we're going to head inside the high-tech operating room.
A major player in here is robotic-assisted surgery. Now, this isn't about a robot doing the surgery all by itself, so don't worry. Think of it more like a super accurate GPS for the surgeon. The system uses a 3D model of the patient's joint to guide the surgeon's hand, allowing them to make incredibly precise cuts and get that implant positioned perfectly. The process is this really cool blend of digital planning and robotic execution. It all starts with a 3D scan, which lets the surgeon create a super detailed digital game plan before they even make a single cut. Then, in the OR, that robotic arm helps them execute the plan flawlessly, all while feeding them real-time data to make sure everything is aligned down to the millimeter. Now, working right alongside those robotics is another huge advancement: minimally invasive surgery, or MIS. The goal here is pretty simple, but it's so powerful. Get to the joint while causing the least amount of disruption to all the surrounding muscles and tissues. That means smaller incisions, less pain, and a much faster road to recovery. And you can really see the impact it has right here. This chart, it's based on data from the National Institutes of Health, and it compares a traditional total knee arthroplasty, that's TKA, with a minimally invasive one. The data is clear. MIS techniques can seriously shorten hospital stays, and that means patients get to go home and recover in their own space way sooner. So we've got more precise surgery, we have less invasive techniques, but what about the implant itself? That brings us to the next big thing, the implant revolution, and how we're literally building a better joint from the ground up. I mean, just look at the dramatic difference on this slide. On the left, you've got your traditional one-size-fits-most implant, and on the right, that's a patient-specific implant, 3D printed from titanium to perfectly match an individual's unique body. This isn't just a small step up, it's a complete game changer in how implants are designed. But the real magic, the really cool science, is happening inside the implant. These 3D printed devices have these porous, almost web-like structures that are engineered to mimic our own bone. And what that does is it encourages the patient's own bone to grow right into the implant, creating this strong living bond. It's a process called biological fixation, and it is absolutely the key to long-term stability. And for the surgeons, this technology gives them this incredible new level of confidence. As Professor Flivik says here, the detailed 3D planning process is like getting a manual for that specific patient. It takes out all the guesswork. They can walk into the operating room completely prepared, even for the most complicated cases. So the big question, does it work? Well, the data is pretty compelling. Studies on these patient-specific acetabular implants, that's the socket part of your hip joint, are showing an incredible 98% implant survival rate. That's a really powerful statement about what happens when you combine personalized design with biological integration. But listen, the innovation doesn't just stop when the patient leaves the operating room. No way. Just as much thought and technology is going into completely reimagining the entire recovery process. A huge piece of this is a concept called EROS, which stands for Enhanced Recovery After Surgery. Now, this isn't just one single thing. It's a whole system of care. It's a comprehensive pathway that optimizes every single step of the patient's journey to make their recovery as fast and as smooth as it can possibly be. Let's just trace a patient's journey on this path. It actually starts weeks before the surgery with something called prehabilitation to get the patient stronger. Then, on surgery day, the focus is on advanced pain management that really cuts down the need for opioids. And right after, the emphasis is on getting the patient up and moving, often within just a few hours, and then using digital tools to monitor their progress even after they've gone home. And when you add it all up, the benefits for patients are just huge, and they're clear. They get home sooner, they need fewer strong pain meds, they get back to their lives faster, and they report being much, much happier with the whole experience. It's really about treating the whole person, not just the joint. Now, all of this incredible technology, we're talking robotics, custom 3D printing, these comprehensive recovery programs, it all sounds amazing, and it is. But it's really important to have a balanced perspective and look at the real-world challenges. So let's talk about innovation's price tag. This table gives us a great summary. You see, robotic surgery offers incredible precision, but the systems themselves are really expensive and they take a long time to learn. Or take cementless implants. They're fantastic for younger patients with strong bone because they need that bone to grow into the implant to get a really secure fit. But they can be less effective for patients with poorer bone quality, where the bone might just not be strong enough to create that lasting bond. And even ERAS protocols, as great as they are, they require a ton of coordination across a whole hospital. So the crucial point is this. While the short-term benefits of a lot of these innovations are pretty clear, the medical community is, rightly, still gathering the long-term data. They need to prove their value over decades and fully understand if they're cost-effective. So all that excitement has to be balanced with solid evidence. But even with those challenges, the direction we're headed is undeniable. The future of joint replacement isn't about finding one single magic bullet. It's about creating a system that is, number one, personal, tailoring the solution to the individual. Two, it's precise, using technology to execute the plan perfectly. And three, it's integrated, managing the entire patient journey from the very beginning to the very end.
And that leaves us with one final and really important question. As all these technologies become the standard of care, as AI starts to predict surgical outcomes and custom 3D printed implants just become routine, the great challenge ahead is going to be making sure that this incredible, life-changing technology is accessible to every single person who needs it.